core of the plot set in the first 2 chapters, Wharton pulls back to fill in some of the details of the setting, more of a sense of the characters and the world they live in. The beginning starts with this ball a night or two after the night at the opera, where Mrs. Julius Beaufort, on the night of her annual ball, never failed to appear at the opera. To emphasize, Mrs. Julius Beaufort, on the night of her annual ball, never feared to appeal at the opera. Indeed, she always gave her ball on an opera night in order to emphasize her complete superiority to household cares, and her possession of a staff of servants competent to organize every detail of the entertainment in her absence. Showing off more evidence of the performative nature of high society. She not only has to throw a grand party, but she needs to do it as if it were nothing at all. A little Italian sprezzatura, if you will, a nonchalance, and you can see in that so much of what is going on in the novel at large. It is conspicuous opulence. It is very flashy and showy. Well, not necessarily flashy, but certainly very showy. The idea of a performative nature of high society. You're getting another tag to the opera. Again, that notion of performance is just, that bell is rung once again, trying to drive home that this is all showbiz, folks. Even if it's accentuated tangentially, it is there. Julius Beaufort and Mrs. Julius Beaufort are just another vaguely aristocratic and distinctly worthless couple in society, and we'll learn more about them, but this is the world that everything is happening in. As Archer enters the party, he enters the scene, and we're suddenly following. It's like, oh, okay, familiar name, so let's follow him along. Let's see what Newland is up to. And we're seeing him move through this party, taking it all in. We're getting the sense of the tension with Madame Olenska, the Countess. It is being focused or focalized really through him. Wharton reduces the readers to his perspective. We're sitting there getting his impression of things largely, with an air of that exclusivity, and another interruption of opulence, when you get a passage like wandering on to the Bouton d'Or drawing room, where Beaufort had the audacity to hang Love Victorious, the much discussed nude of Bougon-Roux. Archer found Mrs. Welland and her daughter standing near the ballroom door. Couples were already gliding over the floor beyond. The light of the wax candles fell on revolving tulle skirts, on girlish heads wreathed with modest blossoms, on the dashing aigrettes and ornaments of the young married woman's coiffures, and on the glitter of highly glazed shirt fronts and fresh glacé gloves. A lot going on there. This is another sense of the windows pressed against the glass of the rich and famous, the glamour of it all. Here, Wharton is again indulging her knowledge of interior design, of fashion, of all of these things. But this is just another lifestyles of the rich and famous moment in this book, where people are buying this book. This is a commercial venture. People are buying this book to learn about how the other half lives, how the other 1% lives, and trying to get a sense of, ooh, boy, wow, that's fancy. It's the same reason most people watch the Kardashians. You know, wow, they're on a private jet. They didn't have private jets in the 1870s, but they have this. Also significant I would say, is the placement of this, because you get like 2 or 3 short paragraphs, short lines, essentially tracking Newland Archer as he enters the scene, and then okay, we're following Newland now. We had a little set dressing, we learned a little something about the ball, and now here's Newland Archer. So all right, that's our lodestone. That is our familiar face. We're gonna follow him because we're back in the plot. We're out of the description. This is the plot moving forward. Let's go. And then immediately this passage pops in. Now, immediately following this, May Welland appears on the scene, and you're getting those 2 of the 3 crucial characters, the 3 primary characters of this novel. Those 2 are going to be interacting, but between them, we have this silly little passage. Why? It literally comes between the people. This passage about lifestyle, where people are dropping French names and saying, oh, that work of art is so gaudy, and just dropping all of these little details of the party, of the lifestyle, of the fancy society that they're all a part of. This literally on the page comes between the people. And this reminds you that they are always within this world. It's not just about it coming between them, it's about surrounding them entirely. They never have a moment to themselves. They are completely of this world. The setting is a domineering environment of New York high society, and it suffocates everybody within it. It separates everybody within it. It is a character in its own right throughout Wharton. It is in many ways the more important and certainly the most powerful character. The society that they are in is more powerful than any of these characters, as far as we can tell. That is an element of realism. That is an element of the characters never rising above, the limits of their society, of their situations, of their circumstances. All of these factors are coming in, but you are getting a very clear little moment where you can see the art taking place in Wharton. The next couple of chapters are pretty much backing and filling in some of the characters. In chapter 4, we get a protracted discussion and scene with the grandmother, Mrs. Mingott, who is notoriously fat, and we're dwelling on that. We're dwelling on her corpulence, if you will. It is repeatedly mentioned how fat she is. But why? There is a certain grotesqueness about it. There is a certain domineering quality about it. She is, of course, not necessarily well born. She is not necessarily wealthy, but for some reason she has managed to infiltrate New York society and in fact leads it now. She is a member of a couple of different, one particular family that has some prominence, but she is very much within this world and in a sense kind of bestriding it like a colossus. You can see this a couple of different ways. There is a sense that maybe she is a symbol of the bloatedness of the society, that she is literally quite bloated and she can't even necessarily go out that much anymore, so she has society come to her. It conscripts readers into this highly judgmental frame of mind where we're sitting there like, oh God, she's so fat. Where we're suddenly like, judging her perhaps, and we're suddenly maybe repulsed by her, which aligns us with the broader society as well. As individuals and readers, we are making moral judgments all the time, and here we are making one that would be sort of, again, in line with the society, saying, ew, that's gross. um, it, she is, however, still a very powerful social force. She, if anything, she cannot be moved by the tut-tutting of her surroundings. They might disapprove, but they're still all showing up. So there's something quite strong and insuperable about her in this. She is a formidable woman. And then in the next chapter, chapter 5, you get this switch to another branch of the family. We're going to visit Archer's household, and Archer's mother is a very a very different character. We're given a sense of this is a more perhaps a nobler family, if you can use that word. It is certainly a more aristocratic, a little more old school, I guess you would say. We're told that Mrs. Archer is a shy woman who shrank from society. This marks her in clear opposition to Mrs. Mingott, who is always inviting people in. Oh, yeah, and is very loud and boisterous and domineering. This is a much more retiring woman. There is a general divergence that we're told between the family lines, where the Archers and their clan are known for being a little bit more conservative, for being a little bit more quiet, a little more proper, a little bit more reserved. And the Mingotts are part of, well, that somewhat boisterous set, the little maybe a little whiff of new money, and certainly a little bit more opulent. They dwell on the food particularly. The Archer clan is known for having rather bad food, and there's a very funny scene with Sillerton Jackson coming to lunch to gossip with the mother. And Newland's sister as well, and you get all of these little moments where you're shown that this family has very little regard for physical pleasure, let's say, for indulgence of that measure, and this has been noted before. There's a really funny. I think in the biography of FDR by Doris Kearns Goodwin, where she talks about how they just guests would come over, like Winston Churchill, and he would just it was nice to hang out with the president, but they ate so poorly. And this is essentially the same set, old money New York. The food was always kind of gross. On the other hand, the Mingott clan was known for very lush dinners, for very sumptuous dinners, for very expensive dinners, and they cared more about that kind of physical pleasure. That there is a conspicuous contrast between them. And of course, this comes out again very funnily in the lunch scene with Sillerton Jackson, who's always sort of like sniffing at his meal while simultaneously trying to give some gossip to the mother and the sister, while Newland has sort of interjected himself into the lunch, and he doesn't feel like he can gossip in front of May Welland's fiance. But then after lunch, the mother and the sister go off to do what they do. They're crocheting or something upstairs, and Newland and Sillerton Jackson retire to the library for cigars. And it's a very masculine room once again. That notion of the masculine and the feminine is always getting played with here in Morton. But you've got this little scene where they're starting to talk about Madame Olenska, quite frankly. Sillerton Jackson is perhaps still just, trying to dig out some more gossip. And Archer is getting more and more irritated by the whole thing. More like, it's bugging him. When Sillerton Jackson strikes a particularly moralistic note about the wedding or the marriage of Olenska and her absent husband over there in Europe, who's supposed to be Mr. Decadent European, Archer bursts out, says, "Women ought to be free, as free as we are," which highlights a commendably feminist sentiment, brazenly feminist sentiment for the time, of course. But also, the irony is obvious that nobody in this world is actually free. Newland isn't. None of the other men are. None of the women are, certainly. Certainly nobody in this world has any kind of freedom